There is a version of you that has never lost an argument to your own mind. He doesn't raise his voice when he's disrespected. He doesn't lose sleep over people who never think about him. He walks out of rooms that used to destroy him, and he doesn't even flinch. He is not a personality trait you were born without. He is a decision you haven't made yet. Somewhere right now, someone is talking about you, judging a decision you made years ago, waiting for you to fail so they can feel better about themselves. And most of that is happening rent-free, inside your own head, for free, forever, unless you stop it today. 9 truths. Ancient, brutal, effective, stay until the 9th. It changes how you see everyone who has ever hurt you. Most people believe reacting fast proves strength. That snapping back the second they're disrespected is what self-respect looks like. It's the opposite. The easiest people to provoke are almost always the easiest people to control. And somewhere along the way, you decided that made you look powerful, when really it just made you predictable. Between the moment something happens to you and the moment you react, there is a gap. Most people never notice it, because they slam it shut the second it opens. Someone cuts you off in traffic, gap closes, you're already yelling. Someone leaves you on read, gap closes, you're already spiraling. That gap is the only piece of real estate in your life that belongs exclusively to you. Every time you let something rush through it unchecked, you hand over the deed, for free, to someone who probably isn't even thinking about you 5 minutes later. A man who once lived years of his life as another man's property discovered this from inside actual chains. Nobody controls your mind unless you hand them the keys. So, your first assignment. Next time something stings, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds of nothing. It will feel like restraint is losing. It's not. That's the exact moment a reactive man starts becoming an unshakable one. You'll fail at this the first 10 times, that's fine. Nobody builds a new reflex by getting it right immediately. They build it by noticing every single time 1 beat later than they'd like. Eventually 1 beat becomes 1 second. Then 5. Then you're a different man, and you barely remember choosing to become him. The person who hurt you the most, think of their face. Did they hurt you suddenly? Or did they show you small, quiet signs for months, and you chose not to look? You weren't betrayed by reality. You were betrayed by the story you told yourself about who that person was supposed to be. A man who wore an emperor's crown woke every morning and reminded himself he'd meet liars and ungrateful people that day, not because he hated people, because he refused to let them surprise him. Judge people by what they consistently do, not by what you hope they'll become. Do that, and half your future heartbreak disappears. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you accurate. There's a difference between a closed heart and a clear one. A closed heart stops loving people. A clear heart just stops lying to itself about who it's loving. A man sits in a hospital waiting room at 2 a.m. His father is in surgery. His phone buzzes. A message from someone who hurt him years ago, asking for a favor like nothing ever happened. He looks at it for 3 seconds. Then he puts the phone face down on his knee and goes back to staring at the door he's actually waiting for. Nothing about that old wound got smaller. He just decided, in that room, which things deserved his attention tonight and which didn't. That's the whole discipline. Not forgetting. Choosing, he'll deal with that message eventually. Maybe tomorrow, maybe never. But not tonight, in a plastic chair, under fluorescent lights, waiting for news that actually matters. Some things simply don't get to compete for your attention at the same time as the things that do. How many arguments have you actually won in your life? Now the harder question, how many of those wins made your life even slightly better? Most men carry a trophy case full of moments they were right. And every trophy costs something. A friendship, a quiet evening, sometimes a marriage. The ego collects wins, the soul pays the bill. Needing everyone to agree with you isn't confidence. It's dependency wearing confidence's clothes. A grounded man doesn't need the room on his side. He already knows what he knows. You wouldn't scream at a muddy mirror, demanding it show your reflection. You'd wipe it clean, or walk away. Yet people argue daily with minds that decided, before the sentence even started, not to listen. Measure your strength by the arguments you are strong enough to walk away from. There's a specific kind of silence that unsettles people more than any comeback ever could. The silence of a man who simply isn't playing the game anymore. Not because he has nothing to say, because he's finally realized that not every question deserves an answer, and not every accusation deserves a defense. Some things are best left exactly where they landed. Someone throws a burning coal at you. It hurts. Understandably, but instead of dropping it, you keep holding it. Days, years, the person who threw it is long gone. The burn is now entirely yours. There are always two wounds. The one they gave you, and the one you keep giving yourself every time you replay it before bed. Next time an old memory shows up uninvited, ask it one question. Am I remembering this to grow, or am I remembering this to suffer again? That answer tells you everything. Notice how the body reacts before the mind even finishes the thought. The jaw tightens, the stomach drops, the shoulders climb toward the ears. That's not the memory hurting you. That's you in this exact second, physically reliving something that ended years ago. The coal isn't even in the room anymore, only your grip on it is. There is a voice you've listened to every day of your life. It knows your worst memories, your deepest insecurities, and it follows you into every room. Most people obey it, without ever asking if it's telling the truth. If that voice constantly whispers that you were disrespected, not enough, always left behind, your mind quietly starts collecting evidence for that story everywhere it looks. Not because it's true, because you kept opening the gate. Your thoughts are not orders. They're visitors requesting entry. Some carry wisdom, let them in. Others carry fear and old wounds dressed up as protection. Those ones don't get a seat at your table. Next time a thought like they never respected you shows up, ask it, are you here to help me? Or are you here to keep me small? Most people have never once questioned this voice in their entire lives. They assume that because it speaks in their own tone, using their own words, it must be trustworthy. The way you'd trust a familiar face over a stranger's. But familiarity was never the same thing as honesty. Some of the cruelest things you've ever heard about yourself, you heard from you. A teenager gets rejected from a team he trained a year for. That night, alone in his room, he doesn't cry about the rejection. He cries about the voice telling him he was never good enough to begin with. A voice that was talking long before this coach ever said a word. The rejection lasted a minute. The voice has been running for years. Underneath most pain is a hidden demand. That people finally understand you, that your family appreciate you, that the world reward your effort on your schedule. Wanting those things is fine. The danger starts the moment you decide you can't be okay until they arrive. Your peace stops belonging to you. Standing in the sea screaming at the waves to calm down changes nothing. The ocean was never listening. Neither is your past. Neither is the person who already showed you exactly who they are. The strongest people you know weren't handed easier lives. They stopped demanding one. Ask yourself, honestly, what you're currently waiting for, before you allow yourself to feel okay. An apology that may never come. A promotion. A person changing into someone they've shown you repeatedly they aren't. As long as your peace is parked on the other side of one of those, you've handed the keys to your happiness to something that was never obligated to show up on time. Most people don't stay trapped because of what someone did to them. They stay trapped because of a story they keep repeating about themselves. I'm just an angry person. That's just who I am. Say it enough, and it stops sounding like an opinion. It starts sounding like a fact. It was never a fact. It was a habit that got old enough to look permanent. A snake doesn't grow by keeping its old skin. It grows because, at the right moment, it lets that skin split and fall, even though the skin once protected it. Your anger might have protected you once too. What protected you yesterday can suffocate you today. If you met yourself for the first time today, as a stranger, would you choose to become friends with the person you are right now? If the honest answer is no, that's not failure. That's the door opening. Some men change their city, their job, even their relationships, and feel the exact same emptiness a year later, because the scenery moved, but the man carrying the pain didn't. Wherever the old self survives, the old life follows it. This isn't about becoming someone unrecognizable. Your humor stays. Your loyalty stays. Your memories stay. Nobody's asking you to forget where you came from. Only the parts of you that were built purely as armor, the parts that once kept you safe but now just keep you small, are allowed to go. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not even the constant stream of thoughts running through your head. You are the one noticing all of it. Stand on a riverbank. The water never stops. Leaves and branches drift past constantly. Now imagine jumping in every time something floats by. You'd spend your life exhausted, fighting a current that never ends. The shift from I am angry to anger is visiting me seems small. It isn't. It creates distance. And in that distance, for the first time, you get a choice instead of a reflex. Try it out loud once, when no one's around. Say, I am furious. Notice how it sits in your chest like a fact. Now say fury is here right now. Notice how much smaller it suddenly feels, like a guest who's about to leave, instead of a landlord who owns the place. A mother, mid-argument with her grown son, feels the old script rising in her throat, the one that ends in slammed doors every time. This time she stops mid-sentence, breathes, and says, "Give me a minute before I answer that." The son has never heard her say that before. A man gets passed over for a promotion he'd worked 3 years toward. The version of him from 5 years ago would have quit that week, out of spite, just to prove a point to people who barely noticed he existed. Instead, he goes home, says nothing dramatic to anyone, makes dinner, and goes back to work Monday morning, like a man who understands something most of his co-workers never will, that his worth was never actually up for a vote in that meeting room. Nobody in the office ever finds out how close he came to blowing it all up. That's the point. The battles that matter most are usually the ones nobody sees you win. This is the truth that ties everything together. One season the sun warms the mountain's face. The next, snow buries its peak. Storms crash against its cliffs hard enough to shake the valley below. Through all of it, the mountain never argues with the weather. It doesn't beg the storm to leave. It simply remains what it is. You don't become free the day people finally respect you. You become free the moment your inner world stops depending on your outer world to behave. That's the whole secret. Not a painless life, a rooted one. Every man whose name survived history wasn't spared from hardship. He was buried in it, lost children, lost fortunes, years spent in chains before he ever spoke a word about freedom. None of them became solid because life protected them. They became solid because life tried everything it had and failed to change who they chose to be underneath it. There's a habit almost nobody talks about in videos like this one, because it doesn't sound dramatic enough. Gratitude, not the poster kind, the specific kind. Not "I'm grateful for my life." That's too vague to feel like anything. But this, "I'm grateful that person taught me who not to trust, before it cost me more than it did. I'm grateful that door closed, because I would have stayed in that room for years if it hadn't." A tree doesn't resent the storm that pruned its weakest branches. A year later, it's just a stronger tree, and it doesn't remember which storm did it. That's not because the tree is wise. It's because the tree never wasted a season arguing with weather that had already passed. You don't have to thank the people who hurt you. You never owe them that. But you can quietly thank what their behavior taught you and hand the rest back to a past that no longer has a claim on you. Someone, somewhere, soon is going to try to provoke you. In that moment, you now have something most people never get: a choice. You can slam the gap shut like you always have. Or you can pause, breathe, and let the version of you that's been buried finally step forward. He was already there. You just found the instructions. Nothing about your circumstances changes just because you watch this. People will still disappoint you. Days will still go wrong. But one thing can change starting tonight: how much of your peace you're willing to hand away for free. Repeat that decision daily for long enough, and it stops being a decision. It becomes who you are. Tell me in the comments which truth hit you hardest. And if you're serious about becoming the kind of man storms can't move, subscribe. This is only the beginning. You don't need all 9 of these at once. Pick one. Live with it for a week before you move to the next. A man doesn't become a mountain overnight. He becomes one season after season, storm after storm, by simply refusing to move the same way twice. Guard your mind. Protect your peace. And remember, the man who has mastered himself can never truly be controlled by anyone else again.